After rising to fame on social media, Salt Bae is now the object of widespread mockery. A once celebrated figure is now cloaked in criticism, beginning with Messi's rejection at the World Cup and continuing with security checking him at the door of Champions League after-parties. He is viewed as a symbol of empty fame on the internet. The real-life equivalent of his once royal restaurant empire is really contracting. We have lost 5 of our 7 US locations. Profits in London fell by more than 30% and the once proud Beverly Hills location has been closed. In the center of it all, there are incessant debates. He has been accused of creating a work atmosphere similar to the Hunger Games, has had bills that are more expensive than a car, and has been estranged from some of the most lucrative markets due to badly timed political actions. The fundamental question is, what gave rise to a worldwide phenomenon that became viral after only 36 seconds of salt sprinkling? Why has a premium item that Leonardo DiCaprio, Victoria Beckham, and Bruno Mars all wanted turned become a target of ridicule on the platform he created? What facts has the general population not yet learned? This video will explain everything. The media presents an incomplete image, but here you will see the big picture, the expense of keeping up an empty front, along with the relative importance of fame, fortune, and mental health. In this film alone will you find the reasons, the decisions, and the moments that set this chain of drama in motion. Looking back at all the scandals and falls, it's simple to see how this was bound to happen. But we need to go back to the beginning to figure out why that golden light broke so readily. Nusret Gökçe, an impoverished butcher, transformed his abilities into a performance in a tiny Istanbul kitchen. In 2017, he went viral after posting a short video that sprinkled salt over 16 million views in a matter of days, taking his Instagram following from 0 to millions of people in an instant. Nusret, Beckham, DiCaprio, Bruno Mars, and Cristiano Ronaldo were joined by the most powerful celebrities. The master of self-presentation sat at his table, munched on a gold-plated steak, and grinned for the cameras. Salt Bae was peddling more than simply meals, he was peddling experiences. The costs for each supper may exceed $140,000 or more, and they were always lavishly staged. The golden light encircling Salt Bae started to crack after years of being acclaimed globally. It was his obsessive appetite for the spotlight and need to be the center of attention wherever he went, which had catapulted him to the top. The height of opulence did more than foster a reputation, it gave him the false belief that his star power could unlock any door that he wanted to enter. This delusion ultimately led to the disastrous incident at the 2022 World Cup. Attempting to snap pictures with players and seize the trophy from their hands, Salt Bae hurried onto the field immediately following the final match, acting as an outsider. In an instant, innumerable cameras recorded this event. Even Messi, who is usually very composed, ducked under him with an icy, furious look, and his teammates followed suit. This was an obvious effort to steal the tournament's popularity for clout-chasing purposes, and it was disgusting on top of that. Messi's legion of haters wasted no time taking to social media to spew insults and derision, and Salt Bae's condescending reaction only served to heighten the irony. There was an instant and intense outcry from football fans in response to Salt Bae's rash move, which offended millions of viewers. Quickly stepping in to address the growing security and control concerns, FIFA put an end to what had been a viral moment for laugh. Suddenly, Salt Bae went from being a recognizable sight at elite international competitions to an infamous figure after an internal probe resulted in a statement prohibiting him from attending official football events. A man standing on the field, feigning a smile as he realized his golden glow was fading. No more extravagant parties, no more cameras, no more flashing lights welcome him. According to a statement released by the governing organization, FIFA has conducted an investigation into the matter and has identified specific individuals who gained unauthorized access to the pitch following the December 18 closing ceremony at Lusail Stadium. We will take the necessary steps internally. A watershed moment had occurred. From being a beloved and esteemed figure to a worldwide punchline, it was a watershed moment. What is noteworthy, though, is not merely this occurrence. It was the natural result of a chain of choices. How he handled his business, the decisions he made about his public persona, and his connections to wealth, celebrity, and power. Do you believe that Salt Bae's reputation would be able to recover from the 2022 World Cup? No. Those expressions on the field were only the start. Another inquiry surfaced as the stage lights went down. What does his career consist of if not viral moments? It was at this very moment that his former supporters, including celebrities and internet communities, started to speak out. Imagine this: on your wedding day, you're planning to celebrate with your loved ones, but someone says, "I want a picture with you." How awkward. Listen, this is a major turning point for the club. Following that, FIFA is looking into the circumstances surrounding this incident. Apparently, this Salt Bae person is very close with FIFA president Gianni Infantino, thus the calls are coming from within the home. Outrage broke out in the neighborhood, and many took to numerous venues to express their concerns. He acts as if he were attempting to blow out the candles on someone else's birthday. Do you know why he's even there? In the kitchen, he ought to be preparing food. The criticism came from all corners, including news sources and celebrity statements. When Salt Bae started turning his meals into ridiculous performances, many notable people who had previously posed for photos with him began to publicly distance themselves, with some even making fun of him for it. As if addressing the individual behind the salt sprinkle, a few football stars dropped hints on social media about how respect is more important than popularity. The renown that had once boosted him has now deserted him. While I was there, I tried that burger, everyone is astronomically priced. As skepticism grew, the fissures widened. Unexpected tales emerged from beyond the glistening glass doors of Nusret, a place that was formerly thought of as a stage for opulence. Bills that caused a stir around the globe. A car-priced dinner with a couple of pieces of gold-plated meat. Instead of representing status, the $140,000 became proof of pointless expenditure. Wait a second, the Salt Bae character from the joke owns a restaurant franchise, and how much are they? The situation in which a vegetarian pays $31,000 to watch Salt Bae perform. That amounts to approximately $8,500 US. For $8,000, you may dine at a restaurant that serves memes? After this, what comes next? Will Disaster Girl launch a taco joint? Outer Space Men's Grilling? Kermit the Frog's Tea Party? I am at my breaking point. The irony is that it is not even the authentic Salt Bae. He employs people that look similar to him at various places. It's Paprika Bae, not Salt Bae. Spending money on social media now buys nothing more than a temporary illusion, not an actual experience. What was once considered opulence was now exposed, leaving behind feelings of exploitation and contempt. Salt Bae started to reply in the midst of this surge. Goodness does not come cheap. Reactions were, unsurprisingly, highly divided. When people are going hungry all around the globe, it's dishonorable to show off this. He was very naive. Even though someone else wrote that with sarcasm, you're absolutely correct. Although this is pricey, quality is never cheap. The tales from within were even more surprising as the outrageous invoices, which left consumers feeling cheated even at the dinner table. Reason being, per serving of gold-plated steak, there was perspiration beneath the surface as well as the shiny metal. Work, as well as unshared anecdotes from previous workers. Those who had been the ones to stand behind the kitchen fire started talking about their stories. Workers were never sure whether they would be fired during their shift, as they described an atmosphere similar to the Hunger Games in real life. Some former employees have spoken about the difficult working conditions. Allegations ranged from bosses withholding tips to late-night duties without overtime pay to the confiscation of passports. Despite the lack of independent verification, these data add fuel to the fire of controversy surrounding the brand. Several locations of the restaurant were also discovered to have broken food safety rules or had purposefully reduced operational costs to the point where guests were forced to eat in sub-zero temperatures. The promise of gilded opulence was drastically at odds with these experiences. This contradicts the original narrative and shows an imperial power that is showy on the outside but fundamentally flawed. Weirdly, we're seeing this oddity among carnivores, even though nearly all nutrition and health experts concur that eating foods that are extremely processed is harmful for you. Things I felt compelled to share with you. I believe this will pique your attention. As a result, a group of academics collaborated to develop this system for evaluating and categorizing ultra-processed meals. The Ministry of Health has promised to look into the situation, according to a statement. Requests for comment were not promptly responded to by restaurant representatives. A chain reaction was soon set in motion by the allegations, grievances, and astronomical invoices making the rounds on social media. Nusret started to fall from its heyday as a luxurious resort for the rich and famous. The Beverly Hills location, long regarded as the flagship store and a symbol of the brand's opulent status, formally closed its doors in June 2025, and by July 2025, 5 of the 7 Nusret locations in the US had been forced to close. A 30% decline in sales in London is indicative of clients' apparent disinterest. Nusret in Knightsbridge is one of the busiest and wealthiest neighborhoods in London, but according to a research by industry intelligence firm Propel, weekly sales dropped to £180,000, a 31% down from the end of last year. The once gilded and seemingly impregnable empire thus showed its obvious fissures. It was once a sanctuary for celebrities and a posh place to check in, but that was then. The media instead covers stories of falling revenues, closure notices, and the desolate places where lights previously gleamed. These figures aren't merely business-related. They bear witness to an unforgiving reality. Money and celebrity, which were formerly seen as Salt Bae's strongest suits, are no match for a crumbling empire when trust is lost. The present crisis's string of closures is not, in fact, coincidental. They are the product of an old fissure, not in the stake per se but in the very alliance that Salt Bae chose to form. Will the 2018 incident be fresh in your mind? When the biggest economic crisis of the decade hit Venezuela. Over 1,000,000% had been wiped off the value of the local currency. Bread for a few dollars sent millions of people standing in line for hours, while many families went without milk because it was too expensive. Moreover, a video of Salt Bae feeding President Nicolas Maduro and his wife a steak plated with gold appeared at that very moment. In light of the current situation in Venezuela, this striking difference reportedly caused widespread indignation among news organizations around the world. This is why the wound that the scandals of 2018 created were so difficult to heal. On the other hand, another reality stands firm despite the deluge of criticism. Instead of a boardroom, Salt Bae came out of the kitchen. The recognizable pattern is still described by many who encountered him behind the counter. As his hand deftly flicked the salt shaker, he skillfully followed the grain with his knife. A butcher's devotion to his trade is the driving force behind his legendary position. The eruption of public outcry did not force it to disappear. But it changed when that love became too caught up in fame and fortune. Over time, the brand's devotion to the cooking morphed into a passion for performing. A more intense spotlight, a bigger crowd, and the expectation that each meal be a stage production. The brand, which had been kept alive by the faith of its consumers and the tenacity of its employees, was pushed to its breaking point as the cash poured in and the fame trailed behind. Every decision thereafter was a performance. Food had to be visually appealing as well as tasty. Not only had to a moment be polite, it also had to be shareable. The once lauded moves became the spark that ignited further falls at this turning moment. Because of his passion for the art, he felt comfortable performing in front of large audiences. But when the boundary between private space and the audience became more porous, crossing it became an imminent danger. On those intense football nights when the spotlight was squarely on the stars and the trophy, it was misunderstood when a famous chef showed up, even though he knew the crowd still loved him. The subject for the subsequent chapter then emerges. What lies beyond the Champions League 2025 gates, where the lights shine brightest but the coldest for those not on the guest list, if a passion for the stage has surpassed a love for the kitchen? The image of Salt Bae as the coveted golden chef has diminished due to a succession of scandals involving his interference with the 2022 World Cup trophy presentation and subsequent restaurant issues involving stunning invoices and complaints from former employees. The glitz and glamour that formerly accompanied him to social events attended by world leaders, football players, and other A-listers is now overshadowed by popular cynicism and weariness. The entrance to his glitzy world is slowly closing, but maybe Salt Bae isn't even aware of it. He kept making cameo appearances at big events, acting as if nothing had changed from his illustrious past as he embraced the spotlight. This chasm between his perception of himself and the public's perception of him was the catalyst for the subsequent painful event. You may remember that Salt Bae made an encore return at the Champions League after-party in June 2025. But this time, nobody greeted him with the same enthusiastic embraces he used to receive. In a flash, a video went global. Security personnel prevented Salt Bae from accessing the VIP section, where the players and official visitors were assembled. Those days of cameras rolling about him like a hawk during his salt sprinkle performances are over. Instead, a man who had previously controlled the stage was awkwardly shoved out in front of the audience. He wasted no time defending himself, saying he simply wanted to meet his admirers and had no plans to break any limits. Nevertheless, explanations are rarely given due consideration on social media. Laughter ensued as memes featuring the man standing at the door went viral on social media platforms like TikTok and Twitter. The audience perceived that the blocking of their path was more than just a standard security measure. It stood for something else entirely. No longer could one rely on their fame to open doors. Despite claims to the contrary, he insisted he was simply there to meet fans and denied ever being thrown out of the event. He denied the claims circulating online that Nusret was fired. Actually, no celebration was taking place at that location. This kind of occasion even didn't invite me. It appeared like something had happened when I noticed someone acting improperly in the back while I was simply going by. On the other hand, the rumor that I was fired is totally unfounded. My reputation is under assault here. The most embarrassing fall was a headline that appeared in every major international news outlet, including The Sun, Diarioas, and news.com.au. Many media sites have changed their tone after publishing images of him with Beckham, DiCaprio, or Messi. They see this as a sign of his waning influence. Even though Salt Bae came dangerously close to lifting the golden medal in 2022 before meeting Messi's icy gaze, the gap was much wider this time around. The gamers ignored him, and the VIP door banged shut right on top of him. It was a cruel metaphor, that moment. Once upon a time, Salt Bae was the life of the party, but suddenly he found himself on the outside looking in. And for a company whose name was synonymous with glitz and glitter, that was probably worse than any bill that bombed. The luster of steak used to be sufficient to mask any imperfections, but ultimately, it failed to conceal a single fact. A social media sensation, not long-term viability, was the foundation upon which that empire rested. The once global brand turned typical example of empty viral self, Salt Bae, is now just another cliché. Something that, once the attention of the audience is diverted, disappears, like a straw fire. However, there is another narrative lurking beneath the satirical headlines and mocking memes. The tragic tale of a downtrodden butcher who, after slowly coming into his own, is ultimately consumed by the halo he built. Maybe there's more to the lesson than just a lesson about glamorizing oneself. Additionally, it serves as a gentle reminder that, beneath all the flair, there is still a fallible human being who can be easily swept away and misunderstood. That leaves one unanswered question. Was Salt Bae merely a man caught in the golden light he created for himself, or is he the one who grabbed the opportunity from the start? Maybe it all depends on how we interpret this story.